to now just gently close your eyes and just allow hold into the seat. Just allowing your seat to gently support your body. And just beginning to breathe, just letting the breath flow naturally. Letting go of any worries in the outside world, any stress, anything that doesn't serve your highest good right here and right now in this moment as we begin our journey within. And as we breathe and enter into this meditation, we silently affirm that I am divinely guided. When I find myself standing at a crossroads or with a choice to make, I can rest and I can breathe because I know that I am divinely guided. And in this divine guidance, I am also willing. I am willing to ask. Asking to Spirit's guidance. Knowing and affirming that those answers are found within. And in that divine guidance, I am willing to be still. The wind may howl outside my windows, but I go within and I bask in the stillness that awaits me there. Allowing myself to listen for that still small voice found within. I am also willing to be present. Be present and aware. In those moments, I may ask myself, where do I look for enlightenment? And then I know that enlightenment is found right here and right now, in this beautiful present moment. And I'm willing to be open, willing to attain Spirit's wisdom, open to the perfect timing, and again the guidance, the divine guidance that is found within. And as we prepare to enter into our moment of silence, I invite you to sit within that still space, to sit with an open ear, and to just listen. To listen for that still small voice that we find in the silence. And as you begin to bring your awareness back to this time and this place, we affirm and we know that we are immersed in a field of infinite wisdom. All the wisdom we need is already found within. Each of our cells is alive and well with divine intelligence. We can ask anything of this wisdom, and we will be guided. We are in tune with Spirit's guidance, right here and right now. And so shall it be. Namaste. And let us continue to affirm truth as we move into our time of a New Lord's Prayer. Thank you, Old Black Joe. I hope you're watching, and I want to thank you for sharing your music with us today. And I will say that you make me feel a little ripped off because that was not the same This Little Light of Mine that we sang in my Sunday school class. So where were you then? All right, so I want to start. I've got a very important question to ask, and you that are watching from home, you can answer silently to yourselves. I'm glad you're not here, so I don't have to hear the answer to this question. But how many in here do not like Star Trek? Let me see a raise of hands for somebody that doesn't like Star Trek, because I want to know who I no longer have to speak to. Okay, Ken, no more. No more. We've got to get you onto Star Trek. Do not like Star Trek. Okay, good. Ken is back in my good graces, everyone. So, yeah. All right, okay. Yeah, I finally got that Star Trek mask I was talking to. Some of you were here that Sunday. I was talking to you about that. So it finally arrived, as you can tell. So I'm very happy. But anyway. And I like all versions, so Enterprise, but the others I like pretty well. So anyway. All right, so back to the seriousness. So today is the second week in our series of I'm using the book, The Gift of Anger, written by Arun Gandhi. And I was talking to someone in the early service, right before the service started, and I told her that I am really writing these talks for myself. Because I don't know about you all, but I'm feeling a little bit of anger with some of the things that have been going on lately. I mean, does anybody else feel a little bit of anger? Yeah, and I'm figuring, if I'm writing these for myself and I'm feeling it, other people are probably feeling it as well. So I thought it would be something really good to talk about and to continue with our second week this Sunday. So how many here have heard the words or some derivative of the words, shh, it's not always good to say what you're thinking, keep quiet. I'm going to take those chuckles for yes. But I mean, heck, I've even talked here recently about how we should take a moment to first think about what it is we're going to say before we say it. Now, I still hold to that, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't speak up. Especially when we witness something that we really should speak up for, right? Now, this week's chapter in the book of the Gift of Anger kind of made me laugh. Because Arun Gandhi, he's the author and the grandson of the Gandhi. And he talks about a time when he and his family paid a visit to Gandhi. Now, like Gandhi, Arun lived on an ashram. But he quickly learned that the one he lived on and the one his grandfather lived on had a few differences. Now, one of those big differences was food. Because Arun said at the ashram he lived, they had, pretty decent food. I mean, it was simplistic, but they used spices and they had a little bit of variety. He learned this wasn't so at his grandfather's. He said that they served boiled pumpkin every day, 3 meals a day. Now, I don't know about you all, I've never had boiled pumpkin before. It's supposed to be a squash, but I just can't imagine that it would taste good. Pumpkin seeds, maybe. Pumpkin, no. Or boiled pumpkin, no. But, I mean, it was no secret. I mean, we've seen Gandhi. He's kind of this little skinny-looking dude. So he was known to eat the bare minimum of just what he needed to kind of get by every day. So really, the meals weren't something that was high on his list of priorities and something he really didn't give much thought to. Well, Arun's 6-year-old sister decided she had had enough. She goes barging in and she's going to talk to her grandfather. And she's like, Grandfather, you should change the name of this place to Kola Ashram. And that's Kola, which means it's the Indian word for pumpkin. She was so fed up she couldn't stand anymore. She's like, no, I can't do with this anymore. And Gandhi's surprised and he's like, well, what are you talking about? She said she just can't stand to eat this boiled pumpkin anymore for 3 meals a day. And Gandhi, again, he realizes, he's like, okay, well, I do have a busy schedule and I probably haven't paid a lot of attention to what they're serving everybody, so let me go talk to the cook. So he goes and talks to the cook and he's like, what's up with the boiled pumpkin? And the cook goes, well, I'm just following your instructions to eat what we grow in the garden. You said to serve what we grow in the garden. This is what we grow in the garden. And Gandhi says, is that all we grow in the garden? And the cook's like, well, we do grow other vegetables. So Gandhi's like, let's take all this mass pumpkin that we have grown in the garden, let's take it into the village and let's trade it for some different type of vegetables to start getting some variety. All because his 6-year-old granddaughter decided she had had enough. And she refused to stay silent about it. She's like, I've had enough of the boiled pumpkin, I'm going to say something about it. But thinking about this begs a question that Arun asks in the book. He says, how can we create change in the world if we are afraid to say what it is that's wrong? And it's true. How can we make change if we're afraid to stand up for what we see that could be wrong in the world, things that aren't going quite as they should be going? And let's think about this for a moment. We've all studied history at some point, right? And we study people who have made changes. I mean, likely we wouldn't be studying these people if they hadn't made some change to study. We study these people who have sparked change at some point in our history. People who have ignited that change. And the one thing most of these people all had in common, probably all of these people had in common, is that they weren't afraid to stand and to speak up. They saw an injustice and they decided, you know what, I can no longer be silent because what I'm seeing happening is not right. They decided to no longer just blindly follow the crowd. And of course, standing up for us doesn't have to be, some great thing that we're trying to get into history books. Maybe standing up is standing up for ourselves or standing up in an instance for somebody that we love or care about, right? We don't do that to get into history books. We do that to help to make the world a better place and to help lessen some hurt that we may be seeing happen. Now, Arun talks about his grandfather and how unhappy he would probably be if he saw the crowd following that's taken place today. People liking things on social media and liking things without even really giving it much thought. Oh, my friend liked this page. Let me go and like it. We're just blindly following the crowd. Fad diets. People may see, oh, this celebrity lost 25 pounds overnight. Let me like it. Let me follow that. A politician made a rude or bigoted statement, but I'm going to stay quiet because that's the party I've always supported. Supporting religious leaders who make pronouncements denying the rights of certain people just because that's the religion or that's the teachings I've always followed. I don't feel it's right, but I'm going to blindly just stay quiet and say that it's okay. We may even feel some of these things are wrong. Inside we know that these things are wrong, yet we just kind of follow along with the status quo. I remember back in grade school, and I think it was the 3rd grade, we had a girl in my class that I'll call Shauna. And she was a quiet girl at school, and she usually sat alone in the cafeteria. And she sat alone usually in class because nobody wanted to sit next to her. Now, Shauna would come to school usually. She had long hair, and it was usually all tangled up, and her clothes were usually stained, and you could tell they hadn't been washed. And as a result, she had a little bit of a smell when you would get too close to her. And I'm sure a lot of that was because her parents weren't probably properly taking care of her and making sure she was bathed as she should have been or had clean clothes. But the kids in the class, they would taunt her mercilessly. And I remember thinking about it at the time, even in 3rd grade, and thinking about how cruel that was. Yet, I just sat there. I was sitting next to her. You know, the teacher assigns you seats, and I sat next to her the whole 3rd grade, and I would see people come to the desk and taunt her. Knew it was wrong, but I just sat there. I even remember one Valentine's Day, I guess they still do it now, but our teachers would ask us to take like a little white lunch bag, and we would decorate it with Valentine's stuff. And we would hang it on one of the walls in the classroom. And then your parents would take you to go buy those little paper Valentines. And our teacher would send us home with a list of all the names of the students in the class. And I remember I was sitting there making out my Valentines one night, and I came to Shauna's name, and I skipped it. And I did it because I didn't want for the other kids to start teasing me. And obviously I still feel bad about it to this day because I'm talking about it. Yet I kept silent, and I even joined in, even if only passively, by denying her something as simple as a Valentine, all because I wanted to fit in. Now, Arun tells us this about Gandhi. I think he would have a few things to say about people who aren't willing to think for themselves and speak out against wrong. We can't let ourselves be swept along by others' visions without stopping to decide if they make sense to our own beliefs. If you are accepting someone else's definition of right or good and not working to find what you value in yourself, then you are accepting boiled, unsalted pumpkin. Now, boiled pumpkin's bad enough, but when you don't add salt to it, that takes it to a whole new level. But I do wonder, though, when we choose to remain silent, are we really kind of doing that because we fear what other people may think about us if we speak up? Do we fear maybe how other people will view us? None of us wants to be the odd person out of our social groups, do we? Or out of the in crowd? So I wonder if fear is really the driving force that prevents us so often from speaking up. Now, Arun addresses this when he says, I learned from Babuji, which I think is Indian for grandfather, that you should not live in a particular way to please others. And I think, what is at the core of us preventing ourselves from, or of us going along with the crowd just to please others? I think it's fear. It's fear of stepping out and of doing something different. Do we somehow believe that if we go along with the crowd, that they're going to suddenly deem us acceptable? therefore ensuring that we remain a part of that crowd? But does this really add any value? Are we really helping to improve the world through our silence when we do it this way? I think we often look around and we see what the in crowd gets, what we get when we follow the crowd. It gets us perhaps more likes on social media. People want to be around us. Hey, look at that woman over there. She's on this diet and dropped 50 pounds last night. I want to be in that. I want to do that too. This woman's got 50,000 likes on Facebook. She may be creating crude videos about people, but hey, I want 50,000 likes too, so all of my friends have liked her page, so I'm going to like her page too. So remember back to my story of Shauna. I wanted to secure my seat so badly with the in crowd, with the kids that were part of the in crowd. At that time, I just wanted to secure it so badly that I didn't care whether I hurt Shauna with my words or lack thereof, with my action or lack thereof, or even by not giving her a Valentine like I did the rest of the kids in the class. But I felt badly about it within. I felt badly about it when she opened up her bag and only perhaps had just a small handful of Valentines, while some kids' bags were just, bubbling over with Valentines. Now, Arun tells a story of his grandfather. Now, Gandhi liked to travel a lot for his work. He had to, because he was going to these different places to speak and to, protest and things like that, so he had to travel. Well, one instance required him to be somewhere kind of quickly, so he needs to catch an overnight train. So he decides to treat himself a bit, and he buys himself a first-class ticket on the train. So he's seated in the first class, and a man steps on and calls Gandhi a racial slur. And he says, you need to get back into the part of the train where whatever racial slur he used normally sit. That's where you need to go. And Gandhi pulls out his ticket and says, no, I've got a first-class ticket. Man's like, either you get up and go or I'm going to have to throw you off. And Gandhi's like, forget it, I got a ticket and I'm sitting right here. And he stayed right there. Well, the man leaves, and a short while later, he comes back with a police officer. They physically grab Gandhi and they throw him off the train. They throw him and his bags off the train. Gandhi later wrote, it has always been a mystery to me how men or women can feel themselves honored by the humiliation of their fellow beings. And this was after he watched the train leave, and he was just left out in the middle of nowhere, cold and shivering. Is this really the direction that we ourselves also want to take? Do we really ultimately feel better about ourselves as a result of another person's humiliation? Do we make the world a better place? Do we make ourselves better by doing this? I'd like to think not. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting that we just decide tomorrow we're going to go throw safety out the window, that we're going to attend a hate group rally. We're just going to walk up there onto the platform, grab the mic, and say, you people are wrong. I'm not suggesting we put ourselves in that kind of situation. There are much safer ways we can go about it, safer ways in which we can allow our voice to be heard. Now, sometimes the anger you're going to feel over an injustice may make you want to do something like that. To walk into that hate group rally, grab the mic and say, what the heck is wrong with you all? Why are you saying this? Why are you thinking like this? But remember, we want to use our anger in ways that force us to react, that force us not to react from that place of anger. Let me get my words right here. We don't want to react from that place of anger. We want to use it in constructive ways to drive change, not division. Speaking from that place of anger is also not likely to get us anywhere, right? It's just going to result in typically, no, you said this, you said that. It's going to, it's not going to normally lead to anything constructive. And anger is something that can very quickly spread into the collective consciousness if we aren't very careful. It can spread like wildfire on a windy day, and that's not what we want. We want to use it constructively, and we want to use anger thoughtfully. Can you imagine if we saw, old footage or something of Gandhi, and he walks up onto a platform, and he's angry. He's got veins bulging in his face. He's sweating. He picks up the mic, and he's yelling and screaming. I'm not quite sure we would remember him in the way we remember him today, if even at all. So Arun tells us this about his grandfather. He says that he believed that to speak out credibly in justice and hope to transform society, you had to speak from experience and feel the injustice in your bones. The thing is that we know when we should speak up, right? We don't have to have anybody tell us, hey, tap you on the shoulder, hey, you need to speak up for that, because we know. When something happens, we know. We don't have to ponder whether or not what we're hearing is an injustice or not, because again, we know. Innately, we know. We don't have to have somebody again tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, there's an injustice going on right there, and I know you heard it, because we already know. We know it. We feel it. We feel it in our gut. We feel it in our bones. We feel it in our head and our heart. We feel it at our core. Because what somebody does to you, they're also doing to me. What we do to other people, we're also doing to ourselves. Because we're one, right? And certainly speaking up may mean that you get ousted from the in-group. It may mean that the tables turn on you. That's a very real possibility. Or we have to accept the fact that the change we may make from speaking up, we may not see that right away. It may be weeks, it may be months, it may be years. It may be something that we don't even see in our lifetime or in this lifetime. Sometimes that's the reason why we avoid speaking up. Who wants to feel like the odd person out? Who wants to make change for things that we may not even witness? We like to see the fruits of our labors, right? We plant a garden, we like to see the flowers grow. We may not see the change that we make. Gandhi dared take the path that few took. He decided to speak up. Like his granddaughter, he decided to not just settle on the boiled pumpkin simply because it's what someone else thought that he should be eating. If you've read anything about Gandhi or studied Gandhi, you know that Gandhi was attacked. He was imprisoned. He even had attempts on his life. And the threats on his life were even more so than that, probably. Now, while I'm not suggesting you put yourself into these same types of positions, I'm also suggesting that we follow Gandhi's example. That we be thoughtful in what we say. Sometimes it's as simple as that. That we think about whether our words are going to hurt or heal. And as Arun states in the book, when you find the words that will do good, be prepared to speak them loudly. And with that thoughtfulness, we can begin to make significant changes. So you may be thinking about Shauna and wondering what happened to her and wondering whether or not I ever did apologize, and I did not. Her family moved, and I'm not quite certain where they ended up. And I even tried to find her on social media a few years ago. Sometimes it can be a little harder to find women just because last names change and all of that kind of thing. But I'm hoping she's moved on, and I really do hope that she is living a life full of joy. But I'll never know. The only thing I can do is to move forward and to think about all the other Shaunas that are out there. Think about all of the other Shaunas that can use a kind word here or there. To think about all of the Shaunas that deserve a moment where we will speak up when nobody else will. And so I invite you today, this is my invitation to you. Never be afraid to speak up. Namaste. Namaste, Ken. And I would like to also remind you that Helen is also teaching our youth as we speak, and she's also using a children's version of the gift of anger. So I would like to invite you to join me in blessing our children as they're going through the same types of lessons and also learning how they can constructively use anger. So children and youth ed department, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ you are. Now, while you prepare your tithes and offerings today, I do want to remind you to continue to check out our website. We still have a lot of Zoom events taking place. If you need assistance and you're like, hey, I heard about this great event taking place, I'm not sure where to find it, check with us here at the office because we'll help you find it and help you be able to get into it. You don't have to have a computer or a tablet to join any of these Zoom events. You can use your phone and call into any of them. Our Absolute Abundance class, you can call in just with your phone because you will have a workbook that goes along with the class. So definitely don't let not having a computer or a tablet interfere with you joining us in these Zoom events. We'd love to have you, even if only by phone. Another thing I wanted to mention, if you got our e-blast on Thursday, we have a form in there to fill out if you would like to be assigned to a prayer chaplain. Now, even if you currently have a prayer chaplain, please fill out that form so we know that you want to continue to receive those calls. So make sure you fill out that form in the e-blast. If you don't get the e-blast, contact us here at the office and we will make sure to get you signed up. So, and it doesn't matter whether you're an official member or not, everybody who would like a prayer chaplain will be assigned to one. So definitely let us know that. We'd love to have you. We have a large spiritual care team, and they're ready to start making some calls. So let them pray with you if that's what you prefer. And now I'd like to invite you to please take your tithes and offerings in your hand and place them over your heart as we say together our offertory blessing. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And again, we still aren't passing around baskets. You will find them on your way out over here. You'll find the basket. Also, remember that you can still donate online. Just go to unityofmadison.org and click the donate button, and that's a very simple way to donate. Or you can continue to mail your checks. We take mail too still. So even what is called snail mail now. We still take snail mail. So, and now I'd like to invite you to join us in our offertory song, I Am So Blessed.